In my sexology practice, I attribute a prominent role to the brain and work related to the brain. This is because the brain is an invisible organ that we do not notice, whether we overburden it or damage it. And our poor body part is quite suppressed. Have you ever thought about this? Our most important organ, perhaps we can say the most important, controls everything, and yet it is suppressed. We generally don't even think about it, right? How often do you think about what might be happening with your brain? You're much more likely to think about what's going on with your hand, your foot, or even your mouth. However, the brain doesn't like a lot of things that we regularly give it on a daily basis. For example, it particularly hates too much and too fast, unnecessary and brief information intake. It gets this from the constant use of mobile phones, more precisely from scrolling, from looking at content on the mobile, whether it's social media, news, or even porn. It's extremely important for the brain to be able to rest, as that's when it can regenerate and become creative. Just as we don't overstrain our hands or feet, we shouldn't overstrain our brain either. Besides this, there are many things the brain doesn't like, and there are numerous factors it does like, which can restore its impaired functioning. The irritability, inattentiveness, and concentration issues resulting from brain damage can be reversed. I start writing about this on page 57 of my book titled Ite zeld a pornofikosteget. The psychological reasons behind erectile dysfunction can vary greatly, and there are many factors involved that no one would ever consider. Let's call an old client of mine Kalman. Kalman arrives with his pretty girlfriend. Let's call her Brigitta. Everything is fine with them, but for some reason, Kalman does not experience erections frequently enough. I start working with him individually, and as we progress, I think by the third session, it becomes clear that he is actually a man who is not known for his fidelity. So he tends to do this. He dates multiple women, or dates one, and has sex with another, regularly cheats, and this always leads to the end of his relationships. However, Kalman has already realized that Brigitta is the one for him, and this scared him so much that he subconsciously suppressed his sexual desire. Not only does he not get aroused by other women, but not by Brigitta either, because he couldn't separate the two. So the two often go hand in hand. And other men have also faced this conflict after successful porn addiction and erectile therapy, that he found it harder to remain faithful because his sexual desire returned. His penis functions properly, and suddenly he starts looking at other women too. This indeed comes with it. If someone's penis functions properly, it's possible that they will desire others as well. And at such times, a strong determination is needed to remain faithful. And if someone is terribly afraid of this, they might suppress their own sexual desire and cause themselves partial impotence. Of course, there is a solution for this as well. I wrote about this problem on page 49 of my book, titled How to Handle Porn Addiction. The power of sexual desire is immense. Many people are not aware of this. We usually talk about how strong the survival or reproductive instinct is in humans, but less so about how defining the instinctual world related to sexuality or even desire itself can be. However, if we do not respect the power of the libido, things can easily happen that are unpleasant or catch us unprepared. This can manifest not only on an individual level, but can also affect a micro or macro community, even an entire society. Sexual desire can be just as strong a craving as the longing for food It can be as much desired as a glass of drink. Let's admit, it's often said, I could really go for a langos right now, or I wouldn't drink a big, thick beer. On the other hand, it's rare to hear, especially from women, I could really go for a big one right now. Such remarks are more likely to be heard from men. Meanwhile, this desire lives within everyone. What can be done about it? I wrote about dealing with the overwhelming power of sexual desire in my book, titled How to Handle Porn Addiction. Among other reasons, I also deal with the treatment of erectile dysfunction, because I would like to see more balanced women, bringing joy to each other at the workplace, on the street, and in social gatherings. There is an astonishing number of desperate, frustrated women who, because they do not receive the necessary attention at home, end up making other people's lives miserable. It doesn't matter whether this woman is 30 years old or 50 years old or 60, she is equally capable of suffering, to a great extent from unfulfilled sexual desire, to the point where it becomes unbearable for her, and as a result, she bothers everyone. For example, at her workplace. I'm sure you've encountered such a woman before. I didn't come up with this saying, and I won't quote this very rude saying, which suggests what didn't happen to her the night before when a woman behaves unbearably and without any logic. Interestingly, this is not said about men. Men can handle being without sex better. I know this is surprising, and many believe the opposite, but it's not the case. For women, it can have a terribly negative effect if they don't get their daily needs met. Not necessarily daily, but it should be regular within a certain time frame. The experience of intercourse. What can be done about this enormous, seemingly unmanageable sexual desire? I wrote about this as well. This is the 50th chapter of my book, How to Overcome Porn Addiction. Page 50.